So I basically want to predict, basically from, you know, now-ish until December of next year. What is Nintendo going to announce? Right? What are some of their games? How are they going to do things for the Switch 2? If I had to guess, they're going to very heavily follow the Switch model, right? Because the way they released the Switch actually worked really well for Nintendo. The Switch's release strategy was actually a very good release strategy. They had a lot of good games coming out in a very short period of time, within a year. You know, I mean, I'm using a year here as a short period of time that had a lot of good first-party games. It had a lot of good third-party games. I think overall, the first year of the Nintendo Switch was very solid. So I feel like it's in their best interest to just do that again. I think it would make the most sense to be like, hey, this worked for the Nintendo Switch. Let's just do that again. How do I expect them to show the Switch 2? I think they're going to do what they did last time. We're going to get a trailer, and it's going to be people playing the Switch OLED, or, you know, the Switch 2. I just need to I'm just, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call it the Switch 2. It might have a different name. There was a 4chan post over the weekend, because, you know, not every 4chan leak is real, but every real leak I've ever seen has come from 4chan. That was the new version, that the new successor to the Nintendo Switch is going to be called the Nintendo Switch version 2. And while I do think that post is fake, honestly, that name is so fucking stupid that I could believe it. I believe that Nintendo is stupid enough that they would call the successor to the Nintendo Switch version 2. So I think we get a trailer. I think we see some people playing existing Switch games. Like we see the new we see like an updated look at Tears of the Kingdom. And we see some new stuff. Specifically, I would expect a new Mario Kart. Because, you know, you've got Mario Kart 8. We've been on Mario Kart 8 for a decade now. Give us Mario Kart 9. Give us Nintendo Kart. Whatever it be. We see some clip shots of that. And then we see a new 2D Mario game. The new 2D Mario game, maybe we see a third party, right? Because so the original Switch trailer, which we should watch, right, showed the Nintendo Switch being, right, it showed off how the system worked. Hey, these guys are playing it in a car, this guy's playing it on a plane. You can play it with a friend, you can play it on a TV, you can take it to a roof party. It showed off all the different ways you could play the Switch, and I expect them to do something very similar with the Switch 2. Be like, hey, these are all the different places and ways that you can play Switch 2. Show it off, show off the new games. Right, you know how the original Switch trailer had Skyrim? A pretty good game that I think made a very decent addition to the Switch library. Right, the idea of Skyrim on the go is a very promising idea. Nowadays, right, you can't do that anymore. Because you have things like the Steam Deck, or that PlayStation thing. You can't really recreate, right, the magic of the Switch reveal can't really be redone again. Okay, we're still in Pro. So you can't really recreate that magic, but you know what? While this game is playable on the Steam Deck OLED, I'm just gonna say Steam Deck for lack of a better thing. I don't think the OLED difference matters. While this game is playable on the Steam Deck, I think having one of the games in the reveal trailer be Baldur's Gate 3, the game that won Game of the Year last year, would be a huge deal. Because, right, there's no way the current Switch can run Baldur's Gate 3, but I bet if the Steam Deck can run Baldur's Gate 3, I bet the Switch 2 can. So I think instead of having Skyrim, having Baldur's Gate 3 would be a huge deal. I think that'd be a very logical choice. Now for the Switch, they did the big Switch reveal in January. They did a big January showcase that was like, hey, here's the Switch reveal, you know, it's this big thing, we're gonna do this big live, you know, on stage showcase one January night. I think they're gonna do something similar. Maybe not a live showcase like last time, but I could see them doing something So I think they do it in February. I think they do a big showcase that kind of is like, hey, here's all the new games, here's all the new features about the Switch 2 that are coming out in the next year. I think that's the easiest way to do it. I think they do it in February, and then the Switch 2 comes out in sometime between April and June. I think getting it out earlier is better. I think it would make more sense to get it out in April than wait until June. Because then, you know, you can do a showcase in June as well. And I think it would suck to have the showcase in the system be back-to-back. Right? Because that showcase in June is when you can start talking about next year's games. And, you know, get better looks at, like, you know, like what they did with Mario Odyssey. Where they showed it off at the January showcase. And then we found out about the capture mechanic in June. I think they do something very similar. What do I actually expect from the hardware? It's going to be a little bigger, right? We know it's on an OLED. But it's going to have a bigger screen, probably. Just slightly bigger. It's probably going to be an LCD screen. We're going to get some new type of Joy-Con. They're going to be a little bigger. I hope old Pro controllers and Joy-Cons work on the new system. Because it would really suck having to, you know, buy an entire new set. You know, because that was one of the nice things about the Wii U was that I could just use all my Wiimotes. Like, I had 4 Wiimotes from having a Wii. I didn't have to buy a single new controller. I did not buy a single new controller for the entire lifespan of the Wii. That was so nice. I hope they do the same thing on Switch. Because I do feel like this, you know how we can strap the Joy-Cons on the Switch to charge them? I feel like the old Joy-Cons are not going to work like that on the Switch 2, but I feel like there's a good possibility that the old Joy-Cons are able to Bluetooth sync up on the Switch 2. Because Nintendo's now selling that new separate controller charger, and I think that's going to be an important part of it. Nintendo did their HD Rumble, which is on the PS5 controller, but then the PS5 controller also added in adaptive triggers, right? Pressure-sensitive triggers that, you know, change depending on their feedback. I very much feel like that's an idea that assuming Nintendo can take that, I'm assuming that's something they want to take, right? I know pressure-sensitive triggers are, accessibility issues. Nintendo doesn't give a shit about accessibility. They will always put a gimmick over accessibility, sadly. It actually kind of sucks that they will. But I could reasonably see them doing that. So I think there's assuming, right, the adaptive triggers aren't, like, completely copyright struck by Sony, I could realistically see them doing that. I could see them putting a microphone on one of the Joy-Cons. That's another easy thing for them to do. You know, just kind of update it. I don't think they're going to do a D-pad on one of them. I know some people really hate that Joy-Cons don't have a D-pad. I get that. I don't think this is going to change it, though. I think the way they're doing it so that way, you know, you could give half a controller to a friend, and they basically have the same button layout. I think that works fine for Nintendo. I think they like that. I don't expect that to change. I don't think the Switch 2 is going to have a crazy gimmick. You know, I've seen all these crazy gimmicks about, like, what if it has a second screen? I do not expect the Switch 2 to have a crazy gimmick. I know, right, there's been that whole thing about the double screen, right? Oh, you can pop one screen off and give it to a friend. Just because Nintendo files a trademark for something doesn't mean they're going to use it. Remember in the lead up to the original Switch, how they had a special screen with buttons in it? And, like, hey, you'd press the buttons on the screen, and they were, like, actual, like, feedback buttons built into a screen? That never got you know, they made that whole design. And that was the rumor for the Switch, the original Switch, that never got used. I don't think that's coming back for the Switch 2. So I'm just making that prediction right now. That's not going to come back. I don't think we're getting 2 screens. Honestly, the best possible version of the Switch 2 is just the Switch, but better. Better graphics, better hardware, preferably either a better battery life or at least the same battery life. Right, I like the Switch OLED's battery life. It's pretty decent. 4K would be nice, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Nintendo using AI upscaling and whatnot. Kind of similar to something like Sony to do 4K upscaling. That'd be cool. I like, one of Arlo's predictions was an open face dock, right, because right now the Switch sits in a closed dock. I like the idea of an open-face dock. I think that'd be really... Because, you know, I always worry about scratching my Switch's screen. That's never happened. I don't know anybody that's happened to, but that will always be a concern of mine. It'd be really nice to know that, yeah, it's just an open-face dock. That'll never happen. That'd be really cool. I said they put a microphone on it. Maybe they put a camera on it, right? Like a laptop-style camera that you'd see on, like, a Chromebook. Like, put it on the top of the system. I could see that. It'd be really dumb if this thing isn't backwards compatible. It'd just generally be a waste of, right, everyone's time and money if this thing wasn't backwards compatible. I feel like there's a lot more profit to be made off of backwards compatibility than there isn't. It's Nintendo. There is I'm gonna say 50% chance that the Nintendo Switch Online games completely reset on the Switch 2. That instead of just bringing over the current existing Nintendo Switch Online game libraries, they start over as if it never happened. Because that would be, what, the third, fourth time they've done that? It'd actually probably be the fifth. And they've done it 4 times before. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it a 5th time. I expect Nintendo Switch Online to stay the same. I think it's going to keep at the same price. I think they're going to keep the, I think the family membership is fantastic. I love the family membership, right? If they're going to do Nintendo Switch Online, I want that family. Having that family membership is so convenient. I want them to keep that. I think keeping the same price would be a smart move. I kind of hate... I hate that they broke it up into 2 tiers. I could realistically see them getting rid of the lower tier and just being like, hey, there's only a high tier. And, give more benefits to the high tier. I still think that idea of making a Nintendo Switch music app, that, basically Nintendo Spotify. It works on your phone, it works on the Switch, and it just has every soundtrack ever made by Nintendo. You can just listen to them, make that part of Nintendo Switch Online. That'd sell gangbusters. Every Nintendo generation, we do tend to get a new IP, right? For the Switch, it was ARMS, which was immediately forgotten about, and I don't think it's coming back. For the Wii U, it was, what, Nintendo Land, question mark? I don't know if that one really counts. For the Wii, it was, of course, Wii Sports. For the GameCube, it was Pikmin. And there's, like, a dozen other examples, right? Every generation, Nintendo gives us a new IP, at least in the past, like, 20 years. So I can realistically see, hey, it's the start of a new console generation. Oh, for the Wii U, it was Splatoon. That's what I was... It's not Nintendo Land, it was Splatoon. Duh. I'm playing it right now. I could realistically see at the start of a new generation, hey, here's the new Nintendo IP. It is, I don't know what it's going to be. It's Nintendo. They could do anything. I'd love to see their take on... I don't want their take on like League of Legends. I would hate Nintendo League of Legends, but... I would love to... You know what I would love to see from a new Nintendo IP? I would love to see Nintendo's take on Dark Souls. I know that sounds weird, but Dark Souls, Souls-like games, are games made with a lot of love and passion. And I would love to see how Nintendo would adapt that. Because a lot of these developers are like, oh, we don't want to put an easy mode in our Dark Souls game. Well, okay, mainly the main one. I feel like Nintendo, if anyone's going to figure out how to put Dark Souls, make an easy mode in Dark Souls, to be fair, I think Another Crab's Treasure did figure that out, but I would love to see Nintendo's take on it. How they would do a Souls-like. Even if it's not like the most difficult, I know difficulty is an important part of Souls-like, but I think there are other elements of Souls-like that, to be fair, it also takes a lot from the Metroidvania genre. I would love to see what they could do with it. A Nintendo Souls-like would be very interesting. I think we're going to get some third-party games. I already mentioned Baldur's Gate 3. I think that's a very obvious one. I think that one makes a lot of sense. It'd be a big thing for Nintendo. I'm still predicting GTA 5. I know I said GTA 5 was going to come to the Switch like 6 years ago. 7 years ago, potentially. That never happened. I could see with GTA 6 coming out next year, them being like, hey, guess what? If you want to play GTA 5... I don't think GTA 6 is coming to Switch, obviously, but I could see GTA 5 coming to Switch too. That's just kind of one of those predictions I think I'm going to always make. Because it's weird that it didn't happen. It's weird that we only ever got Skyrim. The fact that we never got a single Fallout game on the Switch kind of blows my mind. Because I feel like Fallout 4 would have ran fine on Switch. Even if they had ported to Fallout 3 or New Vegas, people would have loved New Vegas on Switch. I know New Vegas has problems, but it still would have been cool. You know, when I say New Vegas has problems, I mean it has problems running. Like, getting that game to actually fucking work is a whole nightmare. But you know, anything's possible. Xbox does not view the Switch as a competitor. And as a result, I could see some Xbox games coming to Switch. Specifically the Master Chief Collection. I don't think we're going to get Game Pass on Switch 2. I don't think we're going to go that far. But I could see us getting, like, the Master Chief Collection. You know, if Microsoft wants to announce a new Banjo-Kazooie remake or something, doing it at a Nintendo showcase and being like, yep, this is coming to Switch 2, it's coming to Xbox later this year, right? That'd be a big thing. Or something GoldenEye, I don't know. They can figure out something. I could see Microsoft genuinely announcing something. Or maybe one of the studios, Microsoft, you know what it's going to be? I just remembered. Nintendo signed a deal with Activision Blizzard to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo consoles. Right? That's one of the reasons the Activision Blizzard Microsoft buyout was able to happen, was because Nintendo signed that deal. I think they're gonna bring Call of Duty to Switch. Maybe Warzones? Right? I know there's the new Call of Duty, right? Black Ops 6 or whatever. I think it would be a bigger deal if they brought Warzones. Because, right, that's that additive games that keeps getting come to. I would love to see, I would love to see some Nintendo character in Fortnite, but I feel like that ship has kind of already sailed. You know, they could always open up the door again. New console, new life, but I doubt it. Nintendo very clearly wants to keep their characters on their hardware. They're not going to change that. Except for that one time, they did it on mobile, but we don't talk about that, I guess. I think we might get a revival. I think Star Fox, or, the fact that we did get F-Zero 99, and it seems to be doing okay. I could see us getting a new F-Zero. Finally, Nintendo being like, you know what? It's been 20 plus years at this point. Let's bring F-Zero back. Let's give them a new F-Zero game. The only reason I think they wouldn't do it at launch is because they're obviously going to prioritize Mario Kart. Mario Kart's the bigger deal. Mario Kart sells systems. It's the best-selling game on Switch. Obviously, we're going to get Mario Kart or Nintendo Kart, something like that. My big problem is the Switch 2 lineup. I'll be honest, I've got 3 games where I'm like, they're going to launch with something big. But the question is, what big game do they launch with? Do they launch with Metroid Prime 4? Or do they save that? Or do they do that early? Does Metroid Prime... Because, right, I think it's going to be on both systems. But do they launch with Metroid Prime 4 at the same... Right, simultaneously, like they did with Breath of the Wild or Twilight Princess? Or does Metroid Prime 4 come out early and then get a Switch upgrade later on, like a few months later? I don't know. Like, if Metroid Prime 4 comes out in, like, March, and the Switch 2 launches in June, I think that would be okay. But if it's like, oh, Metroid Prime 4 is coming out in March, and the Switch 2 comes out in April, you might as well just put them on at the same time. But the problem with Metroid Prime is that statistically, historically, all the Icklys, Metroid doesn't sell that well. Metroid Dread is the best-selling Metroid game, and it only sold 3.6 million units. I know that's still million, but when Mario Kart is selling 60 million, Breath of the Wild sold, I think, over 30, Mario Odyssey sold over 30, launching with a new Metroid, while it is hyped, I don't think that's the best idea. I think I could see you saving that one for June, maybe. I feel like the best option is to either launch with a new 3D Mario, because it's been a long time since the last 3D Mario, so I feel like you launch with that, or you launch with Mario Kart. If I was a betting man, I would say Mario Kart. Again, it's the best-selling game on Switch. It's been years since the last one. Yes, did Mario Kart 8 get a lot of DLC? That was really good, actually. Yes. Yes, it did. The DLC was fantastic. But it's been a long time. It's been a heck of a long time. I feel like it just kind of makes sense. Mario Kart 9, call it Nintendo Kart. Hey, guess what? It's Smash Bros. But Mario Kart. I know some people don't like the Nintendo Kart idea. I think it's a good idea. I think the Nintendo Kart's a fun idea that, you know, would get a lot of that, you know, have like a Zelda Cup, have a Splatoon Cup, have a Fire Emblem Cup, have a Metroid Cup. I feel like there's a lot of different ideas there. Have an F-Zero Cup, right? Remake 4 classic F-Zero tracks. For our new Mario game, I really do feel like they might be doing open world Mario, right? Mario, because, you know, Mario has like open world, like Mario Odyssey was open world levels, but they were still like just sandboxes, right? It wasn't fully open world. It was like Mario 64. I could see them, but then you had Bowser's Fury, which was just a fully open world Mario, right? You could go anywhere, do anything, kind of. There were some limitations, obviously, but I could see them going full open world 3D platformer. I have it in my notes as Super Mario Multiverse. I know some people are sick of the multiverse. I think Mario going around through the multiverse, fully open world, you can go to any multiversal world, you know, bring up a lot of references to classic Mario games, have a world inspired by, you know, the original. You get to go to Yoshi's Island. You get to go to some of the Mario 64 worlds, Isle Delfino. You know, basically just treat every past Mario game like its own universe. Have a Dr. Mario world, have a Paper Mario world. I don't know, have a Mario Kart world. I'm saying Mario Multiverse. I know people don't like Multiverse, but after Galaxy and Odyssey, where do you go next? Mario into the Multiverse makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna guess the console releases in April. I think it's better to get it out earlier than later. I think getting April or May is more obvious than June. I think June is, right, it's too close to E3, you've got other things going on. I think it makes the most sense for Nintendo to pull a GameCube, right? They launched with a Luigi's Mansion, and then a month later they came, or like, not even a month, it was like a few weeks later, they came out with Super Smash Bros. Launch with a Mario Kart, or actually, by that logic, it would make more sense to launch with a new Mario, and then a month later release your new Mario Kart. Back to back, get two bangers, two big selling, right, high selling games right off the bat, one in one next to each other. I think that would really sell systems. I think that's a good idea. When the Switch released, they released, right, with Breath of the Wild. I don't even remember if Skyrim was a release date game, but they released with Breath of the Wild, but they also released with a few indie games, specifically Snipper Clips and timed exclusivity on Spectre of Torment, the second Shovel Knight DLC. What if Nintendo was able to acquire Silksong exclusivity? Let's say timed year-long console exclusivity for Silksong for the Switch 2. That'd be a big fucking deal. Right? That'd be a big deal. It would matter a lot. Hey, Nintendo, we're the one console that has Silksong. Sure, it'll be on the PS4 or PS5, just not until next year. You want to play Silksong? You either play it on PC or you play it on our console. That would be such a big deal for Nintendo. And I could see them doing it. I could totally see them pulling it off. So maybe that's why we haven't heard anything about Silksong. I doubt it, but you know, I'm just bringing it out there. One of the big Switch launch titles was an indie game that was a timed console exclusive, at least for a while. I could see them doing that again. It's totally possible. I mean, also, I could literally also see them doing that with Shovel Knight DX. Right, we know the new version of Shovel Knight's coming out. I could see that releasing the same day as the Switch 2. Maybe not as a timed console exclusive, because I don't think they've talked about it as such. Right, like, that's one of the things you want to get on every system. But I could see it coming out the same day as the Switch 2. I feel like that would be a very good synergy move. Just being like, yeah, Nintendo is the best it's the best place to play Shovel Knight. We got Spectre of Torment first, and now they're getting Shovel of Hope DX first. Yeah, that's my crazy Silksong theory. It's not going to come true. Obviously, it's crazy for a reason. We know we're getting a Pokemon game, right? Pokemon Legends EA. I feel like a lot of these... I think, you know... Because the weird thing about the Wii U was because the Wii U did so bad, Nintendo could just drop it without anybody caring. But now that they have a successful console, they kind of can't just drop it, right? They kind of have to support it, at least for a little bit. So it's just a question of what, right? Like, okay, Metroid Prime 4 would obviously come out on both. Pokemon, it's been announced, it might come out on both. But, like, is a new Mario game gonna come out on both? Right? Is a new Mario Kart gonna come out on both? I don't feel like either of those should come out on both. But then again, I mean, God of War Ragnarok was on PS4 and PS5. Horizon Forbidden West was on PS4 and PS5. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know at this point. I feel like Sony was a lot more even though Sony was in a much better position going into the from PS4 to PS5 than Nintendo was Wii U into Switch, right? I feel like there's definitely going to be some transition hesitancy. It's just a question of how much. I don't know. To be fair, Nintendo pretty quickly gets over it. You know, I was talking about a March game. Pokemon Legends ZA could be a March game. I don't know. I would maybe expect to hear about it soon then, because we haven't really heard anything from it. And if it's coming out in March, you know, that's 6 months. Or yeah, that is a standard life cycle. But no, I can see it being a June game. I don't know. Normally Pokemon is a holiday game, right? Traditionally, Pokemon games come out in holidays, except for Legends Arceus, which came out in January. So literally anything is possible at this point. But I'm gonna predict Pokemon Legends ZA in June. It's gonna be on Switch 2. It might be on the original Switch. Who knows? I don't know. I would really hope that the Pokemon Company was kind of like, you know what? We know this new console's coming out. We're not gonna put the game on both systems because, you know, it's gonna run like shit on the old system. Because their current gen games run shit on the system they're currently on. It would just kind of make sense. But we'll see. There's been a rumor recently that Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming back. It's not a big rumor right now. I've been predicting Xenoblade Chronicles X for years now. It's the last Wii U game that, in my opinion, needs to be ported. Because I don't give a shit if Star Fox Zero is ported. I don't want Nintendo Land to be ported. But Xenoblade Chronicles X needs to be ported. I don't want that game to die on the Wii U. Especially because it ends on a cliffhanger and we need to know how that cliffhanger gets resolved. So there's been some rumors shaking around recently that, you know, hey, we might get Xenoblade Chronicles X announced soon coming to Switch. And admittedly, I can also see that being a January, February, or March game. If Xenoblade Chronicles X is February's Nintendo game, I think that'd be perfectly fine. But get that running on Switch 2. Announce that, hey, the sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles X will be Switch 2 exclusive. Do something, right? That it's back, right? Xenoblade Chronicles X will be backwards compatible on the Switch, but it'll be switched. The sequel will be Switch 2 exclusive. I don't know how you do it. There's got to be some way to do it. Because yeah, I want. You know, you gotta know. You gotta know what happens after that cliffhanger. And the fact that we went the entire... I mean, yes, we did get Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we got Torna, we got 3, and the reason why I'm predicting July is because 3 came out in July, very tail end of July. So if X comes out in July or August, I think that'd be fine. I mean, if we're following the Switch's release model, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out in December, but I don't think they're going to stick to it that closely. I could see Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I think Wind Waker, right, everyone knows those ports exist somewheres. There's been so much talk about them. They never came out on Switch. What if they're just saving them for the Switch 2? Right? Nintendo has a rule that they have to, at least since Breath of the Wild, they want to get a Zelda game out every year. And they've done, it's like out of the 8 years, they've done it, 7 times? They only kind of missed once, and that's because Tears of the Kingdom took a while. Why they didn't put out Wind Waker or Twilight Princess during that one kind of weird year, I have no idea. But I could see that. The other thing I could see is, you know, with the new Zelda coming out, Echoes of Wisdom, right? There's a lot of talk on, right, how Zelda's new playstyle and how, you know, you can explore this open world, go anywhere, do anything. Basically 2D Breath of the Wild. What if they take the logical extension of that? And what if we finally get that Zelda Dungeon Maker everybody wants? Right? Because after Mario Maker came out, a lot of people were like, hey, we should get a Zelda Maker. Wouldn't a Zelda Maker be pretty cool? Because I don't think we're getting a Mario Maker 3. According, supposedly, allegedly, internally, Nintendo considers Mario Maker 2 a failure. Even though it was a really good game that still sold like a few million units, Nintendo considers that game a failure. They expected it to be bigger than it actually was, and I don't think we're getting a Mario Maker 3. But I could see them taking their hand at like, hey, let's do a Zelda Maker. You know, people want it. There's a good idea in there somewheres. I think it would just kind of make sense. Let people use the original Zelda art style, the new Link's Awakening art style, the Link to the Past art style, and then maybe revive the Minish Cap art style. I like the Minish. I'd rather have the new Link's Awakening over the original Link's Awakening and the... What's it called? What's Link's Awakening and the Oracle Games art style? Right, I'd rather have the new one. And then, yeah, just have... I would say Minish Cap. I'd rather have Minish Cap over... Even though I love Link Between Worlds, I bet Minish Cap's pixel art has aged better. Yeah, just give us a 2D Zelda. You can make Zelda dungeons. There's a bunch of pre-made dungeons. Maybe you can do some overworld stuff, and like you can make because one of the great things Mario Maker 2 did that they only did at the very end of that game's life cycle is they allowed you to make your own worlds. Basically, you could recreate your own Mario game and write all the worlds. You could do a world map. Really neat, really fancy. I would love to see a Zelda Maker have something like that, where you could create your own world map. You could do everything under the sun. That'd be very neat, be very fun. I don't know how far they could take it, obviously, like there are certain limitations. But I think, Link's Awakening messed around with the Zelda Dungeon Maker. Like, they, prototyped it. But if I'll be honest, it wasn't. It was just kind of... It was repetitive, because it wasn't as free as you'd like it to be. I feel like there's a way to do it that's interesting, that's fun, but they'll have to figure that out. But that's another possibility. I could see that coming later on down the line, but I just kind of want to throw it out there just in case. It's been a while since we got a last Kirby game. I mean, Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe was last January or February. I know we had that Kirby 3D cake game, Kirby Balls. But that was a very small game in June. So I could see us getting a new Kirby. It'd be really cool if we got, the follow-up or the sequel to Forgotten Lands. I'd love to see another 3D Kirby game, especially after playing Astrobot, which, again, Astrobot reminds me of Kirby and the Forgotten Lands in a lot of different ways. If you're going to do a sequel to Forgotten Lands, just put Kirby in the Dark Souls world. Someone once made the joke, I think it was John Cartwright, that all you have to do is just put Kirby in the Dark Souls world. All the enemies are the same, all the characters are same, the only difference is Kirby is the protagonist. And that would be amazing, right? If Forgotten Lands was all about Kirby in a city, putting Kirby in a dark, bleak medieval era would be so fucking cool. Kirby Dark Souls, man. Trust me, it's an amazing idea. They just have to do it. I don't know if they will do it, but it's a fantastic idea. Just trust me. Just trust me on this one. I would love to see a new Kirby game, but I would take a remake of any of them, honestly. I would love a port of Planet Robobot / Triple Deluxe. I'd want both games together, but honestly, if they just gave me Planet Robobot, I'd be fine. I want Planet Robobot over Triple Deluxe. Triple Deluxe is fine. Planet Robobot is fantastic. It's maybe the best game in the franchise. I'd also take a port. I would love Amazing Mirror and Squeak Squad, because Amazing Mirror is an open world game. It's a 2D platformer that is open world. You can fight the bosses in basically any order. It's actually really neat and very ahead of its time if you've ever played it. I would love to see that get revived. Right, so a remake of Amazing Mirror, and then you might as well just remake Squeak Squad. Squeak Squad is Amazing Mirror, but boring, less well-designed. It's not boring, I actually really like Squeak Squad. It's just not as interesting, right? The level design is super simple. It's not nearly as creative as, Amazing Mirror, but it's still fun. I mean, man, some of those I love Bubble. Bubble has a power-up, Ghost has a power-up. The Squeak Squad themselves are very fun characters. That'd be cool to see again. And you definitely could not remake Squeak Squad on its own. There's just not enough there. So, there's the question of, are they going to port Splatoon 3, or, you know, just give it an upgrade? Or are we going to get a Splatoon 4? I know, this game's just ending, but within a year, we might get Splatoon 4. I know there was what, 2 or 3 years between Splatoon 2 end and Splatoon 3 start. So, you know, you think they might wait a year or two after, you know, give Splatoon 3 some time, you know, maybe do a port to the Switch 2 that adds in the third kits, maybe add in a stage or two, do another year of Splatfest. I could see them doing something like that to, you know, drum up a Switch 2 audience. But I could also just see them going to Splatoon 4. Right? This weekend, we are going to decide, is Splatoon 4 going to be about the past, the present, or the future? We're going to figure that out right now. And, you know, if Team Past wins, they remake Splatoon 1. If Team Present wins, they just port this game. And if Team Future wins, they make Splatoon 4. I mean, sadly, anything is possible. And in December, you give us a JRPG. Right, Nintendo loves to push out JRPGs in December, be that Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Super Mario RPG Remake. I would say we get another Mario RPG, but we've kind of gone through all 3 of the major types of Mario RPG in the past year alone. So I don't think they can do that. I think the next logical thing would be to bring back either Earthbound or Golden Sun. A Golden Sun remake would go pretty hard because, you know, it's been dead for a long time. Giving that a December revival would be neat, you know. They brought back Famicom Detective Club and made a new game for that. They can make a new Golden Sun. Or, you know, just remake Earthbound. People, right, you're remaking a bunch of classic RPGs right now, Nintendo. Earthbound is one of the classicists. Oh, God, remake Chrono Trigger for the 3rd time. Oh, wow, that'll go so well this time. It's possible, actually. The rumor is that Nintendo has delayed the Switch 2 several times because they want it to have a strong first year. So I really hope that all those delays have paid off and we are going to get a strong first year. I think that would just make logical sense. But we'll have to see. I don't know. I tried to match things up with the original Switch's release year, which had a lot of great things as well. Like, I really feel like my only stretch here is like this is the Kirby game. Other than that, I feel like everything else here is basically on parity with what we got in the original Switch's year. It makes sense on the Switch 2 for them to bring current gen Switch games onto Switch 2 with basically upgrades. You know how if you buy a PS4 version of a game, you can get the PS5 upgrade for an extra $10? I could see Nintendo doing that exact same thing. Hey, you know, do you have the current gen version of Smash Bros. Ultimate? Pay an extra $10 and you can get the Switch 2 version now with better netcode. How much better? Barely. But hey, better is better. Because Nintendo has changed their netcode. Right, Splatoon 2 was the first Nintendo game to get new netcode. How well does that new netcode work? But they did do it, so anything's possible. You know, you always want that, what, is it peer-to-peer? I can't remember what good netcode is called. You know, you always dream of having that good netcode. Nintendo's clearly not going to do that. I do fully bet, though, they're going to bring back Nintendo Switch Online. And you know what might be I talk about new additions to Nintendo Switch Online. What might be a good one is if they're going to write, it's old games from the original Switch that you can buy, the Switch 2 version of, or you can pay $10 for the upgrade. What if instead of paying $10 for the upgrade, they just include that upgrade as part of Nintendo Switch Online? Where it's hey, every month we're upgrading a new game. Hey, it's the Switch launch month? Guess what? If you have Tears of the Kingdom and you have Nintendo Switch Online, you can play the upgraded version of Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, they also charge you $10 on the side, but I think including it as part of Nintendo Switch Online would be a very logical thing that I think would get them a lot of, right? Because there are some games that people are oh, I have that game on Switch. I don't think I'm going to replay it, right? So they probably would never do that, but they might subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online for something else, and then do that anyways. Or, right, that could be, like, the moment that, like, convinces people to switch over, or... I don't know. I feel like there's something there to putting these upgrades behind Nintendo Switch Online. Because, right, I know PlayStation gave some of these upgrades away for free for a while. So Nintendo being like, oh, yeah, they're part of Nintendo... They're not free, but they're part of Nintendo Switch Online would be, like, a very Nintendo compromise that I could see them doing. Animal Crossing, definitely. I do think the Switch 2 is definitely going to get a new Animal Crossing. I just don't know if it's going to be at launch or if it's going to wait a year or two. I definitely think, right, the fact that Animal Crossing was such a phenomenon, the fact that it sold so well, Nintendo should definitely capitalize off that, and I think that'd be a good, you know, thing to sell people on the Switch 2 in its first year, but I could also see them saving that to be a second-year game. Just being like, hey, we had a great first year with Mario, now here's a second year with Animal Crossing, here's a third year with Splatoon, and then here's a fourth year with a big, new, massive open-world Zelda game. Or, you know, some other big thing. You know, maybe they do Twilight Princess 2. Scarlet and Violet, one of the original rumors about, right, that led people to think that the Switch 2 exists, is someone who supposedly worked on developing a port of Scarlet and Violet for Switch 2. Admittedly, that rumor was like a year ago now, so it's been a long time. But I could totally see Scarlet and Violet getting just a graphical upgrade. Not a big graphical upgrade, obviously. Just make it run a little better. That'd be a cool get. You know what our December... You know how I said Nintendo doesn't have a December game? Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. There you go. December game. It's an RPG. That should happen this year. Just put it on Nintendo Switch Online. You don't have to make a big deal about it or anything. It's just, hey, want to play Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald again? Well, here's your chance. Because, God, those games are fun, and sadly, for some reason, Nintendo refuses to bring them back. And I don't get it. Pikmin 4, I'm still kind of amazed Pikmin 4 never got any DLC or anything. I mean, it was a very complete game. I'll give them that. Like, they stuffed that game full of stuff. I would have loved some DLC, man. That would have been very fun. Give us the Right, we got the Olimar quest, that's a remake of Pikmin 1. Give us the Louie quest, that's a remake of Pikmin 2. That would have been neat. Just, you know, don't make a big deal. Right, it's just basically Olimar and Louie revisiting caves and from the story mode. But, you know, maybe add back in some Pikmin 2 enemies and, you know, make them difficult. Have the big thing being like, hey, this is the difficulty DLC. You're Olimar and Louie, maybe even the president shows up. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not Olimar and Louie. Maybe it's the president, you and the president, and boom, it's difficulty. It's all about being difficult and, you know, killing you and bomb rocks and creating Doriji bugs and Gatling Gorinks are back. Oh, that'd be mean. Any miscellaneous stuff? Like I said, I could see a new Animal Crossing something. We never got a Tomodachi Life game on Nintendo Switch, and I don't think that's going to be a February or a March game. I just don't think that's... as much as people want that, I don't think it's happening. Maybe on Switch 2, but I don't think that would be a year one thing. But it could be. Mario... I had Mario Sports Game written down. Usually we don't get a Mario Sports Game until year 2. Like in the... right... like Mario Tennis came out in year 2. I could see us getting another Mario Tennis in year 2 of the Switch 2. Or I'd much rather prefer a Mario Baseball. Right? I really hope they don't just revisit the same wells that they did for the Switch. That instead of just like, oh, here's another Mario Tennis, here's a Mario Golf. Oh, hey, now we're going to do a baseball instead of a soccer this time. Do new stuff. I want new stuff all around, right? Start off with a baseball. That'd be nice. Or a third-party studio or an indie studio using a Nintendo IP. That'd be very cool. You know, give the developers of Bug Snacks the rights to make a Rhythm Heaven game. They'd blow your socks off. I don't know why those were the first two. That was the first gaming developer I can name. You know, Nintendo likes to launch all their consoles, at least all their, all their consoles with a game that shows off the hardware. You know, Nintendo Switch Sports, Wii Sports, obviously. Nintendo Land, 1-2 Switch. I feel like that the Switch, right, if the Switch 2 has some sort of new fancy gimmick, again, the dual screen thing, or, you know, they have the new adaptive triggers, I could see them doing something like that. I don't think it'll be anything as good as, you know, Astro's Playroom or Wii Sports, right? I feel like those two things are kind of magic in a bottle that you can't really recapture. For me, the big point of contention is just, is it gonna have a gimmick? I feel like the best move is just do the Switch again. Switch but better. But Nintendo loves their gimmicks. Now, if the gimmick is VR, the other thing I can see is VR. Nintendo loves a good gimmick. VR is kind of the new hotness. Like, we're not entirely there yet, but we're working on it. So I could see Nintendo being like, hey, here's, you know, the new Switch. There's this VR headset peripheral, right? Joy-Cons have, like, little lights in them that allow them to be, like, easily tracked by this new headset. I could see them honestly waiting a year. Like, they show it off early on, but are like, yeah, this isn't coming for, like, another year, right? This is just something you will be able to do one day. And then be like, hey, here's a new Mario game. Here's Mario 64 Sandbox, where you're like a god overlooking the Mario 64 world. But you're also like controlling Mario, and you get to like move the sandbox around. You know, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. They do something clever with VR. Nintendo makes their Half-Life Alyx, but it's a Zelda game. That'd be cool. If that's the gimmick, I'd be okay with that gimmick. But I don't know if that's actually what they're going to do. And yeah, that's all the Switch 2 predictions I got. I do think, I don't know if it's happening this month or next month. I definitely think it's happening sooner rather than later. I've seen some people, probably Arlo, say that it's not going to happen until January. I feel like by because, right, Arlo says it's not going to happen until January because of the holiday season. That they don't want to announce the new console because they still want the old console to sell. I think if you announce the new console, put the old console on sale, put the old console in a bundle, however you make it work, I feel like there's a way to do it that'll sell old consoles while getting people excited for the new console. There's definitely a happy medium there. They just gotta walk it. And, I mean, like, yeah, they weren't trying to... I mean, Nintendo was still technically trying to sell Wii U's when they announced the Switch, so... I don't know, I've seen some people freak out about it. I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people are making out of it. We'll see if any of that comes true. I could totally be 1000% wrong about everything. Nintendo might just pull a PS5, launch the console, have one decent game, and then do nothing for the next 3 years, and then announce a pro version for $700. You never know.